Hey everyone, and welcome to AvidMax Tying Tuesdays. My name's Brady Laehr, and today we're going to tie a Reaper Midge for you. Have my hook set in the vise here. This is the Firehole 315 hook. It's a great little hook for this pattern. It's a barbless curved shank hook with a nice flat platform up top that caters itself nicely to the Reaper Midge. First thing I'm going to do is just start my thread right on there. I'm using a Vivis 60-knot for this one in black. And once we have that locked on there with some locking wraps, we can go right into tying in our body material. And this is just going to be a little bit of the MFC Midge body thread, which is a substitution that I've made on this pattern. Traditionally, it's tied with the Vivis Iris thread, which is a pretty similar material to this MFC Midge body thread. So we'll secure that right on the hook shank here. Just capture it in place. And then I'm going to walk on down a little ways, adding some curvature to the profile of this bug. And then we can take our thread right back up and cover over everything for a nice base for that midge body thread. And I am going to position myself right about where that halfway point is, because that's when our next transition into the thorax will start, right about there. So in the meantime, we'll half hitch it in place and throw the thread over on the bobbin cradle, and then we can wrap our body here. So just some touching wraps as we go forward, making sure to cover up all that thread. We'll leave ourselves a nice purple body when we're all done. This is a pattern, as I understand it, that was developed by Josh Williams, a fly fishing guide out of Virginia. It's an excellent little wintertime midge dry fly imitation. You can drown it and fish it as a sunking fly as well. Inherently, with the back end being kind of this smooth midge material, it will sit just below the surface. So it's a nice transitional bug to fish. You can fish it year round, but most relevant, at least here in Colorado, in our winter months on our tailwaters, when those fish are looking to fatten up on the plethora of midge population that exists. So we'll capture that in place and go ahead and clip it out and get ready for our next material here, which is going to be just a little bit of tinsel. And this is going to be somewhat of a prop. Today I'm using the Ice Dub Silver Holographic color from Hairline. It's a pretty picky fiber, so I'm going to use some dubbing wax just to help ball it up on the thread here overall. Don't want too much, just kind of a sparse amount here. I grabbed too much to start. Let's cut that in half. Because initially this is just going to be a little bump on the back end that we're going to position our wing, a little bit of flash material against. So we'll get it spun around that thread real nice here, and then we can make that bump. So a few wraps right around, just like so. And then I'm going to bring in that crystal flash. So this crystal flash is the UV Pearl, the ultraviolet version. It's got a nice purple hue to it, mostly pearl. I'm going to grab a bundle of those, let's say about 4 or 5 fibers in total, and then I'm going to double them up and thicken it out a little bit. So I'll just fold them in half here and double them over. If you're doing a whole bunch, you could use the full length strands to get this wing. So we're going to position them out a little past what the shank of the body is on this one, and just a nice tight little bundle that will sneak right on in front of that ice stub. And we can come back and trim out our excess material there. Save that for the next fly. And cover it up and make a little bit of a transition here. Preparing for our hackle. I'm going to lay down just a little bit more ice stub to tie that in, but first we got to get our hackle feather in there. So I'm going to pick a feather off. We're going to kind of measure it against our hook shank here, just to make sure we have the right gauge. A little bit smaller than that. So you can use your gape to measure your barbel size. So find the right feather that you need to use. There we go, that one looks pretty good. So now I'll go ahead and prep this feather. We'll just strip back some of those barbels to give ourselves a nice clean tie-in point. And I'm going to go ahead and X-wrap that on. So we'll do one front to back and then sneak behind that feather and then go back to front. Helps keep it perpendicular against the shank. And then we can kind of sneak up and grab that stem and secure it to the hook shank just to make sure that we're not going to come loose with that feather. Once that's in place, then we can do our ice stub addition here. And similar amount, we're going to kind of taper it forward just slightly. And I always like to use a bit of dubbing wax with this ice stub because it is just some nice long fibers that mixed in. Nice tight noodle, and then we can kind of take that back and work on that transition right on up to where the hook eye is. Just like so. It gives us a nice little base to wrap this hackle over. This is a great little midge pattern. Throughout the year, as I mentioned, you can fish it by itself, you can fish it in tandem with a larger dry to help provide some visibility to track this fly on the water, or with a small, like a pulsa indicator, just a few inches ahead of it so that you can see where you're at while you're fishing. Now we're just going to palmer our hackle on forward here, and some touching wraps, giving it that nice buggy look. And then once we get to that hook eye, go ahead and capture it off. Bobbin cradle out of the way. We'll sneak up and under it there couple times, and then we can pull it all back and do some finishing wraps on this pattern. Try not to trap any of the hackle fibers. There we go, and just a quick whip finish. Got my nice midge-sized whip finish, which is real handy when you're tying some nice small bugs. But there is a completed Reaper Midge. This is a purple variation today. You can do it in black, creams, whatever you feel like is going to be the best imitation for where you're fishing. But I would definitely recommend this fly. It'll bring you a lot of success in some of those tougher months.